That clip you just heard describes the City Challenge, which motivated runners across the globe in January with an opportunity to win free burrito bowls for a year. Through a partnership with Strava, Chipotle Mexican Grill became an unexpected leader in community building among runners. This tasty prize went to whoever became the local legend of various designated segments. Chipotle's been dishing out fresh burritos and tacos for years, but they're pretty new to the running scene. The challenge started last year by giving runners in 5 cities the opportunity to compete for free Chipotle for a year. This year, they went even bigger with 25 cities. And some runners went to pretty extreme lengths to win, running hundreds of miles on busy downtown streets. My guest today is the Vice President of Brand Marketing at Chipotle, Stephanie Perdue. I reached out after hearing about the challenge to find out how it works and learn more about why a little fun competition can be such a strong motivator. I'm a huge fan of Chipotle, and I do not recommend listening to this episode on an empty stomach. So grab a snack or maybe your next energy gel if you're listening to this while on the run, and let's get into the interview. All right, I am joined by the VP of Brand Marketing at Chipotle Mexican Grill. Stephanie, how are you doing? And is this your first running podcast?
Hey, Corey. Yes, this is my first running podcast. So happy to be here with you guys.
Amazing. Well, we're lucky to have you. And before anyone draws any conclusions that we're no longer a running podcast, why don't you tell us a little bit about both what you do and why you're on the show today?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I'm the VP of marketing at Chipotle, and we have through our Lifestyle Bowls line, which is basically a curated line of bowls on the app that really cater to people's dietary preferences, whether that's high protein, keto, gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan. We have engaged with the running community with a Strava partnership both last year and this year. And the genesis for that is, Chipotle is one of the few restaurants that uses real ingredients. We don't have freezers in our restaurants. Our food is sourced with some of the highest standards, from animal welfare to, we really support organic and local producers. And so it's one of those rare occasions where you look at the ingredients that Chipotle uses, they're all familiar. And because of that, athletes at all levels love going to Chipotle. And specific to the running community, what we found out was we did a survey of Chipotle customers, and 7 out of 10 runners who also love Chipotle use Chipotle as part of their training regimen because they can customize the bowls and burritos to their dietary preferences, whether they're looking to, gain or cut or shred. And so we found, as a restaurant brand, a unique niche, even though we're used by a lot of health and wellness communities, a unique niche with runners.
Yeah, I will say so. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Chipotle, both from a branding marketing perspective, but also for sure the food. I think it's fantastic fuel before or after the run.
Awesome. And everyone has their order. Like, what's your order? What's your Chipotle order? What's your go-to?
This is such a tough question, and it's funny you're like spoiling the surprise because I was going to ask you your order at the end, but
I'll
maybe I'll
go
jump to
next.
that piece. Sure. Okay. So my go-to order, I have to say, I almost always go for a bowl, and I get half chicken, half sofritas, and then I get them to absolutely load it up with the fajita vegetables and all the salsas and toppings. What about
Nice.
yourself?
Nice. I actually use 2 of the Lifestyle Bowls, and I use them for different reasons. We have a Whole30 bowl. It's a salad bowl. It's under 500 calories. It tastes fantastic. It's got protein, so I go for the chicken. Our Super Greens lettuce blend, fajita veggies, just like you. Love those. They're freshly grilled in our restaurant every day. Guac. You can't have a bowl without the guac. And fresh salsa. So that's my Whole30 go-to. And then there's also a balanced macros bowl. Pro tip on the app, on the Chipotle app, you can customize extra, light, on the side. So what the balanced macros bowl does is you can go extra lettuce, which we cut fresh every morning, the romaine lettuce. Whole heads of lettuce come into the kitchen. We're chopping them daily. So it goes heavy on the lettuce, light on the cilantro lime rice, and then, chicken, a little bit of cheese. Got to go with a little bit of cheese. Sometimes fajita peppers, again, the guac, and fresh salsa. So it just depends if I'm, looking to keep my calories intact or, load up a little bit because I had a great workout.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of runners, including myself, who are going to be salivating listening to this. So let's get back into the city challenge. So you talked a little bit about this partnership with Strava. So what are the rules here, and where do these lifestyle bowls you just talked about play in?
Yeah. So as part of our work with like just any kind of fitness community, we know that January is always an important month to set goals, and we know that usually these communities are very committed, but it doesn't hurt to have a little extra motivation. And so that's why we think both everyday training and us being the place where you get real ingredients, fast, customized, but also like how do we go into your lifestyle and help bring value. So we thought Strava was a unique partnership because again, the everyday runners there, the elite runners there, it's runners of all different kinds of levels, and we wanted to engage in a challenge for January. So last year we did it in 5 cities. This year we expanded it to 25, and basically we did a local legend segment challenge. They were paths and routes created by the Strava community. They were only 0.2 miles, and they ended at a Chipotle, again, using that insight that, after people run and train, that post-workout meal is a big occasion for Chipotle. And so the local legend challenge for the month of January was whoever ran that 0.2 mile segment the most times in their city. And then we actually added another opportunity. So the most miles logged in January by a city also got to win a free buy one, get one entree for their entire city. So the race was on over the month of January against these 25 cities with local legends in each city, as well as one city being the winner of free Chipotle for their city.
And I think I have the standings in front of me, and anyone listening who's in San Francisco, I guess they're the lucky
San
recipients of a buy one, get
Francisco.
one.
Yeah, exactly. So incredible, I think almost 2,000 miles logged, and which is just outstanding. And there was, top 3 cities. You got to also give it up to Tempe and Portland all the way in there as well. But yeah, they will be getting a free Chipotle on next Tuesday, February 12th, the buy one, get one in any city and any Chipotle in San Francisco after 3 p.m. So congrats both to the local legend as well as to the entire city of San Francisco.
And do you have to be a resident? If I fly down to San Francisco, am I eligible for the offer?
You can fly and go, make the trek. Yeah.
Anything for free Chipotle, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and the local legend, I didn't mention it. While the city gets free Chipotle, San Francisco, this case on February 12th, the local legend in each of the 25 cities gets free lifestyle bowls for a year. So there is a dual prize involved.
Amazing. And what was the genesis of this? Are you a runner yourself, or how did you come up with the city challenge?
Yeah, I have a great team, and they use the Strava app incessantly. And so, they saw the insight. Chipotle, like I said, has an authentic relationship to athletes of all levels. And, whether it's CrossFit or basketball or college sports, we see a natural relationship with Chipotle, and we see that over the course of the athlete's journey. And that we love that role. And so for us, as we continue to enter into different fitness communities and understand how we add value, a woman on my team, her name is Isabel, uses the Strava app all the time and said, runners are passionate about what they do. They love Chipotle. Let's do something no brand's ever done. Let's do a restaurant brand has never done. Let's get on the Strava app and do and try to digitally engage these communities around Chipotle as being part of their regimen over January, and hopefully those new customers that try Chipotle for the first time, it becomes part of the regimen even beyond January.
That's incredible. I think your team has clearly caught on to the fact that runners are both passionate about athletics and the pursuit of bettering themselves, but also really passionate about food.
For sure. It's I think what you eat is just as important as how you train. And so, we take that role and responsibility serious, and the idea that we're making fresh ingredients every morning, and you can customize it to what your diet needs are is it's not common at every restaurant.
And how does this really fit into the ethos of Chipotle? Because when I think of Chipotle personally, I really think of it as one of the leaders in this sort of healthy fast food movement.
Yeah, again, we love when whether it's a college athlete or a nutritionist or a runner reaches out, and we've done sponsor me challenges, and you can just feel the passion and on the authenticity of like, and I think that's why these Strava challenge, I mean, we logged so many incredible miles, and you saw people running like the equivalent of 5 marathons in the last 2 days of the challenge. I think that free Chipotle was motivating, and I think that was, it's just a testament to that authentic relationship the brand has in this space.
Yeah, and now's a good time for me to point out that this is not a paid partnership. We are not getting, yeah, any form of payment, not even free Chipotle. We're just lovers of food and running here.
Yeah,
So I think it's so cool just how these things are brought together, and that you've caught on to a trend that I think running clubs have become so much more popular, and it's so commonplace now for people to go down for either a beer or, a nice meal like Chipotle.
totally. And I think our challenge was accessible. It's a short segment. And you could see, like, if you follow any of the running clubs on social, and how they rallied around the challenge, I think pushing each of them who were participating, as well as doing it for the city, which is really cool to see. You had, runners like asking the mayor to run. You had runners, bringing someone a piece of cake after their segment, and really just kind of engaging as a community, as well as pushing each other. And I think that's unique for sports communities, that you have that social aspect, that community aspect, and then with that passion. It's not it can be individual, but it also can be, very motivating from a group perspective, which I think also surprised us.
And why do you think it is that these challenges get so competitive? Is it the food? Is it the community aspect? Because I do know last year, Washington in particular had multiple runners who completed over 1,000 segment attempts, and it sounds like this year, some of the cities even topped that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's that social nature of the Strava platform, being able to see people's, progress over the course of the month. So I think we're taking an inherent aspect of an existing behavior of runners on the Strava platform, and then we're just like, again, just upping the ante and motivation with some free Chipotle, and that seems to, it seems to have been fun, as well as very motivating.
And how does the prize work if you are one of the individual winners of a city? Is it unlimited Chipotle for the year? Is it a set number? How do you cash it in?
Yeah, you could basically get free Chipotle every week. So for the 52 weeks, you'll have a Chipotle meal once a week.
Okay, so does it extend it in the next year if you win at the end of January?
Yeah, so if we come back with another Strava partnership, we definitely think that the free Chipotle for a year was probably the most motivating prize, and we see that a lot too. We have athletes who hold like VIP cards and who have like relationships with Chipotle, and that's like one of the things that is the most motivating to create a partnership with Chipotle. So again, we kind of look at athletes at all levels, and we know that the value that the brand brings in terms of that aspect.
Stephanie, this is kind of a detour from our main conversation, but what is a VIP card? Is this some form of sponsorship for runners?
The VIP card, we launched a celeb card last year, and it's a group of like our biggest super fans, and it was actually the first time we opened it up to. We know that, again, athletes and influencers or celebrities love Chipotle, so they're part of the program, but also everyday super fans. So we actually did a contest in social media last year for people to show their fandom, and so it was the first time we opened it up to anyone. And it was really cool. Again, very motivating, like the Strava challenge, because you get this card of free Chipotle for a year. So that's where it stemmed, and that's where, in with the Strava challenge, we're also giving runners that same benefit.
That's pretty cool. So if you win the Strava Challenge, you're in the company of all these elite athletes and celebrities, I guess.
Definitely, definitely, exactly.
Yeah. So coming back into sort of what you're achieving with the challenge here, why do you think it is that in general people tend not to stick to their fitness goals, and how do fun challenges like the Chipotle challenge help to combat that and get people motivated?
Yeah. We do a series of things. I mean, we know that our consumers are kind of always on with their fitness goals. But we know that like January, like post winter and, this kind of the doldrums of the post holiday effect that, January is very important. And I think our consumers actually strive to do even better. They're just highly motivated. And it's something that, I think it's that pursuit of being your best self, both with your diet as well as your fitness regimen. So we recognize that as a unique part of our customer base. And then, we looked at like, the second Friday of January is what they call No Quitters Day. So if you can actually set goals and get past that day, then it becomes more of a habit. It becomes more of something that you will achieve. So we actually do activation on that day to keep people motivated, a free lifestyle bowl. So that was something that, again, another incentive, movement challenges like the Strava partnership. And just like even just the line of our bowls, like educating customers on how to customize Chipotle. I don't know if you with your bowl go on the app and like do all the toggles around, how to customize it exactly for your macros that you want to take. But that's something that is easily achievable through the Chipotle app. So all that goes into January. And I think all that helps our customers, stay motivated and then make it easy. That's really kind of what we're trying to do is just make that easy. Cause it's not every day where you can get delicious food that also, makes you feel good, and also meets your goals. I think it's a very rare combination. Food that usually tastes good doesn't usually do the other two things. So, and I think that's what makes Chipotle unique.
I think you're completely right, and I love that customizability in particular because I find as a runner and an athlete, it makes such a big difference to choose what goes into it and the types of foods that you love to eat after your run. Some might not sit as well right before the run, so that's a huge
Right.
plus.
Right. Totally. Totally.
In terms of the activations for January, I will put in a petition to expand the scope because I saw there were some pretty cool stuff during January, but it seems like not all of them were open outside of the US.
Definitely, definitely. Well, last year we were in 5 cities. This year in 25. I think we continue to learn. We listen to the running community. We listen to, we're watching everyone's posts on social and what they're saying and what works and what doesn't. So we'll continue to grow. We feel like the partnership has been very successful and we're always looking to bring, how do we up the ante? How do we, bring something unexpected to the challenge? But it definitely seems like we have something here that's unique because a lot of segment challenges are not 0.2 miles right next to a Chipotle. I mean, I think just the ease of it really appeals to runners of all levels. And you can see that in the results.
Yeah, so in terms of those segments themselves, I guess what is the rationale for the small segments? Because a lot of them are sort of central hubs within the cities. You're maybe navigating pedestrians and traffic lights. Is that intentional?
Yeah, I think the insight is just like the path that's near Chipotle, also just being accessible. But yeah, that's one of the insights that we heard is like, oh my gosh, you got to dodge streetlights and road obstacles. So that's something we'll always take a look at. But we're looking at how the running community is using Strava, what's the path that they're taking, and then I think just connecting it to the brand is part of that segment. But we've heard good things on the length, and I think again that makes us stand out as a brand partner. But open if you have any suggestions on how to continue to ratchet up the competition, and as well as any of your listeners.
Yeah, no, I'll put some thought into it. I think it's a cool challenge though. So lo love the setup, and I agree with you. It's totally approachable. Would be curious why runners in particular. I think, as somebody who's passionate about the sport, I'm thankful, and I know so many fellow runners who are excited about the challenge, but why not cycling or weightlifting or another kind of physical activity?
Yeah, we've done activations in those communities. A lot of it has been like looking at kind of the elite in the sport. So like CrossFit, we partnered with Tia Claire. We've put her actual Chipotle order in our app, so you can access kind of what she eats. one of the strongest women in the world. And so we've done that with different communities. I think Strava is something that, I think, to your point, is something that you can go beyond the elite athlete, and you're really scaling your impact as a brand because you're reaching the everyday runner. And I think that's unique. But we have definitely gone into other sports. I just think there hasn't been something as unique to running, as well as like finding the socialness of this community. It's very different. The passion, the energy, the vibe is very different, and that's a good thing. And I think it lends itself to different ways to activate.
Yeah, and I think one of the notes that I've heard on this challenge is just how out in the open it is. I think for something like weightlifting, it's obviously incredibly motivating. That's a big part of some people's lives, but it's often done at home or in the gym. Whereas in a lot of these cities, it sounds like people are going out and they're scoping and looking for when other people are out running and maybe even going at the same time on the same segment. So there is really that community aspect to it.
For sure. I mean, it was really cool to see that people have become friends like during this during January. And, we talked to a lot of the local legends, and they're saying that they're forming groups, post January. I know people all motivated by free Chipotle, who love running. But I think that's really cool and something that we would have never thought of as an outcome. But we're glad that as a brand, we can play that role.
Yeah. All right, I'd love it if we could get into a little bit more of the storylines from the most recent edition of the City Challenge. We talked a little bit about San Francisco coming out on top. I think there were 25 cities, a lot of those outside of the U.S. So I know Toronto, Canada, one of them included. What were some of the other cities outside of the U.S.?
Yeah. Also, we were in Paris, as well as London. So Chipotle has restaurants there. We're new to the scene. But we definitely also had, engagement there, and, runners like post run, meeting up at a London Chipotle. So, which is really cool. But last year was all US, and this year, yeah, to your point, this was the first time we went, to Canada as well as Europe.
Awesome, super exciting.
Yeah.
And just bringing it back to the US, one city that I think was particularly interesting to follow and actually came second on the leaderboards was, I believe, Tempe in Arizona.
Right.
Um, and one of the storylines I saw there, so there were two runners. I don't want to pronounce their names wrong, but Jamil Curry and Kevin Russ, I believe, who each completed over 700 miles on these small segments. Is that anything you expected to come out of the City Challenge?
Not at all. I mean, that means you ran it over 1,000 times. I mean, it's really incredible. And if you followed any of them on social media, they were pushing each other. The community was pushing them. They want. It was awesome to see. And so, yeah. I think they're both, obviously running enthusiasts who do this all the time. And so for them to participate in our brand challenge, says a lot. And yeah, I just loved the camaraderie, loved the competitive spirit. And yeah, you couldn't like even imagine someone running 5 marathons in the last, 2 days of the challenge. Like that's insane.
And I think the hardest part might be if I believe it was Kevin Russ ended up coming second. Does he get anything
Yeah.
to show for completing that many miles?
Yeah, we in a couple cities we did, do prizes for second place as well. Just depending, obviously this level of passion from Kevin, that was something that we wanted to recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a lot of miles to put into a very small area.
For sure.
Yeah, I think one of the other interesting cities was my own hometown of Toronto, and I was particularly invested not just because it's close to me, but one of my colleagues at the Canadian Running Magazine, where I also work at, was quite invested in the challenge. And it sounds like there was actually an interesting outcome there where a runner uploaded a massive number of segments last minute. Is that something that you've seen before in the challenge?
Definitely it happens. I think in this particular case, if I'm familiar, is, he was injured. And so, I think he uploaded, post his recovering from that injury. But I do think that what we've seen is that there's pushes at the end and different strategies, right? So like whether it's a city that, you know, five people have bonded together to get the exact same miles so they could be in a tie, to, you know, what you had mentioned. I don't think that one was intentional because I think it was post injury, but also just like people coming forward like Jamil and Kevin, you know, at the end and really turning it on. So I think people are pushing each other, and I think that's something that's pretty common on the Strava app. But you know, I do think this Chipotle challenge brought out the best in terms of competition.
Yeah, and Stephanie, I think with the sharing, you're referring to LA last year. Is that something you
Yeah,
saw this year as well?
we didn't see that this year. So, but I mean, but it does speak to the ingenuity of the communities, and also just the camaraderie. But yeah, no, not this year.
Runners are creative people.
They are.
Yeah. Okay. And then for LA this year, I wish the best to everyone in that city. I know it's been
For sure.
a tough month there. Um, I believe the challenge had to be cut short. So how did that work?
It did. It did. Yeah. So after January 9th, like once the wildfires started happening, it just, we stopped the competition and awarded whoever had ran the most times in the segment, and awarded them the local legend status. It just wasn't healthy. And so what we did is really focus our efforts in the community to helping the firefighters and helping people who were evacuated. So we worked with Red Cross. And if you were on the Chipotle app and got a bowl or burrito, you could round up to Red Cross, as well as we committed $1 million in burritos to the front line. So we actually went to the command centers where the firefighters and police officers and first responders were, and delivered our teams in the restaurants delivered burritos straight to the front line. So that's where we really focused our efforts. But LA has always been a great participant, and hopefully next year just wasn't the right time. Didn't make sense.
Yeah, $1 million in Chipotle burritos. That must have been a massive shipment.
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah, it's interesting. Like athletes, I mean, like, you know, firefighters, police, they also have to be in great physical condition. So they love eating Chipotle, and so, you know, I think there our teams were more than grateful to deliver the burritos, considering what the, you know, the heroic nature of what they did for the city, and you know, so we played a very, very minute role, but our teams in the restaurants were very proud to be able to help out their community.
I think it's pretty cool that what started as kind of a small challenge in 5 cities has expanded to the point where you have people putting in, hundreds and hundreds of miles and supporting frontline workers with burritos, when you have something that gets in the way.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then, you know, to your point, I think that's what people probably underestimate with like running clubs and running communities. They feel small, but this challenge actually connects them, to have much greater scale on a national basis. Where, you don't just have people competing in a city; you have them competing at this national level.
Yeah. Are there any other storylines, either from this year or last year, that your team found particularly interesting that I didn't bring up?
I mean, I think just go on to Instagram and like, or on Strava, and like just check out the vlogs and the content. And I mean, it's fascinating. But yeah, I think we've touched on a few. And it's just more about, I think seeing someone running the same route like so many times. And I think the friends and people that you pick up in the community along the way, I think that's the part that really gains steam. And that's the really fun part to see in social.
Well, we'll link your Instagram and X in the show notes. So if you see a massive influx of people wanting running content, you'll
Nice.
know why.
All right. Sounds good.
Awesome. Okay, and then in terms of the future, looking forward, do you expect that the challenge will continue to come back and maybe even grow?
I think we're just getting started with the running community. I think this last year we felt was a huge success. This year we expanded it, got incredible engagement, and we're just going to continue to try to find how do we add value to that community, and how do we make Make running fun, and it doesn't have to be so serious, and, just another reason to stay motivated. And it's just part of our ethos on, how does Chipotle make that easy for people to keep on their goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really fun way to motivate people to get out and run.
Awesome.
All right, so maybe just to wrap up, after we've spent a lot of time talking about Chipotle and running, I think it would be fun to ask you a few kind of rapid fire
Sure.
questions about Chipotle. Are you game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, I think my first one was going to be what is your go-to Chipotle bowl, but we've already answered that. So maybe I'll ask you what your go-to order would be if it were not a lifestyle bowl.
Okay, good question. Again, if I got my workouts in, if you have tried our quesadilla, it's excellent. You can only get it through the app. I could get the steak fajita quesadilla. Comes with three different, our freshly made salsas and guac. It's pretty incredible. So definitely don't sleep on the quesadilla. And I think if you haven't had our burritos in a while, also like great value, and just, easy to eat on the go. So those would probably be, I would probably steer you to two other entrees, but those two bowl orders are my go-tos all the time. And I'll just usually more switch up the proteins. I know you said you were half sofritas, half chicken, which a lot of people don't know. You can get half and half of the protein, so that's definitely a pro tip. And especially if you want, more vegetarian, our sofritas is an organic tofu, and it pairs really well with that chicken, so that's a great combination. But yeah, so like for me, I'll also just on our bowls like mix up the protein. So I'll go from our chicken to our steak to, if you haven't had barbacoa, excellent. It's our braised beef barbacoa. And we just finished up with our brisket. So yeah, so proteins can totally change up your order. So a lot of people are creatures of habit with their Chipotle orders. So like we kind of joke that like, whatever you started eating in high school or college, a lot of times doesn't change. I have the luxury of eating Chipotle a lot, and so like I do experiment. But yeah, I would encourage different proteins, and then try out the quesadilla and burrito if you haven't had it in a minute.
All right, I want to bring up a little hack of my own and find out if this is something you've
Okay.
tried. But
Yeah.
I always order guac on the side as something to dip in, and then I love adding in, like in every restaurant there always seem to be some kind of hot sauce, Chipotle, and variations of that. Put it inside the guac and then use that as a dipping sauce.
For sure. Our If you want to get like experiment, you go on social and look at what people are eating for Chipotle. Like to your point, the creativity on the dips is next level. So a lot of people take the Tabasco, specifically the Chipotle Tabasco, and mix it with either our sour cream or our queso. It's delicious. Also, they take our Chipotle honey vinaigrette that comes with our salads. They mix it with the sour cream. Amazing. You got the spice of the chipotle, sweet of the honey, or awesome sour cream, and it tastes great. As well as they'll take the hot salsa and mix it with the sour cream called dragon sauce. So way more than meets the eyes on the dips front. But so if you haven't tried any of those, I can definitely change up your order.
Yeah, those are great ideas too. All right, I'm gonna go to the next question, which I think is a really controversial one. But what is the right way to eat a Chipotle burrito? Do you eat it from the top? Do you eat it from the side? What's the right way to do this?
Some people do it from the middle. I mean, so I haven't been as savage as that, but
Blasphemous.
the other controversy is how you eat your bowl. If you go side to side or if you mix. I'm a side to side girl, but there's lots of passion on the mixing. Shaking the bowl, mixing, and then yeah, for a burrito, I'm more a traditionalist. I'm going from start to finish.
Right, but so for a bowl, are you side to side or from the
I'm
top?
side to side. I'm side to
Side
side,
to side.
but that there's I think it's equal on the sides here on what's the right thing to do.
Okay, yeah, I'm side to side as well, but
Nice.
it's contentious.
The other thing is whether you eat your Chipotle with a fork, or our fork, or your own utensils, or what's blasphemy is a spoon. But people really love our fork, but that's the other ongoing discussion on the best way to eat Chipotle.
Will people bring their own utensils to a Chipotle?
When they get it delivered, do you elevate with, your own cutlery, or there's just something about that Chipotle fork that just makes, I think, Chipotle taste awesome.
I think the wood is part of the flavor. Okay. I know you brought up the brisket as a meat option, and this is a fairly new option with Chipotle. So I want to get a little bit of your insight on your favorite food innovations. So I did a little digging, and it sounds like you've done some roles in the food department even before Chipotle. So if you had to take a pick between the Doritos Locos Tacos and a brisket burrito, which one takes the cake?
I think they're both good for different reasons, but I have to tell you the what I love about Chipotle is I think, for me it's our really high animal welfare standards, our food with integrity, like the real ingredients. We don't have freezers in our restaurants. We bring whole heads of lettuce, we shred the cheese, we make the guac from scratch, So like for me, I really love the freshness of our food. Uh, I'm gonna, of course, give it to the brisket burrito. But there's no shame in the other product either. Different reasons, different
Yeah,
occasions.
totally fair. Okay, and then maybe the last question I will wrap up with is for any hungry runners who haven't tried Chipotle before, what's the best first time order?
I would definitely check out the lifestyle bowls because they've been curated by our chef, and they definitely are interesting from like a dietary perspective. It gives you ideas on how to customize Chipotle, like I said, through our app, and I think it's really surprising for people like to really think about so many options. So that's where I would start.
Awesome. Stephanie, at this point, I'm not sure whether I'm more eager to go get out and run or go eat a giant bowl of Chipotle, but either way, I loved having you
Do
on.
both. That's what, yeah, winning
Good
combination.
call. Good call. Love it. All right. Thanks, Stephanie.
All right, thanks, Corey. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well.